At a lavish party, a freelance journalist mocked Barron Trump in front of the public with thoughtless remarks. However, Barron's reaction immediately made the atmosphere tense. Instead of getting angry or retaliating, he chose to remain silent, looking directly at the reporter and speaking calmly yet firmly. His words not only silenced the mockery but also made everyone reflect on respect and dignity in this judgmental world. Before continuing with this inspiring story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on other memorable stories. The Grand Hall of the Fairmont Grand Hotel was aglow with sparkling crystal chandeliers, their gentle light reflecting off the long gowns and sharp suits of the guests. The atmosphere of the charity gala was filled with both elegance and intimacy, with quiet conversations blending with soft laughter. However, it was undeniable that a heavy expectation lingered in the air. Everyone was there not just for a lavish dinner but for a higher purpose, to support a charity that helps impoverished children. Amid the crowd, Barron Trump sat in a corner of the room, where the soft lighting couldn't highlight him like the other stars of the evening. At just 18 years old, Barron carried an admirable sense of composure. He wasn't one to seek attention, which made him stand out even more in the bustling crowd. Invited to the event by a family friend, Barron simply wanted to take this opportunity to expand his network. But he wasn't in a hurry, nor did he seek recognition from anyone. As the string orchestra played gentle melodies, waiters moved quickly, delivering delicate dishes, and conversations continued in the warm atmosphere. Barron maintained his calm demeanor. He sat still, his eyes observing and thinking. He knew this wasn't the time for him to speak up or draw attention, but rather a time to learn and observe. The crowd slowly quieted as the spotlight shifted to the podium, and the MC announced that Andrew, a renowned journalist, would be the main speaker of the evening. Andrew was no stranger to the media world. With a strong style and sharp opinions, he had no hesitation in criticizing and challenging popular views. His speech promised to be a storm of debate, a challenge to conventional thinking and beliefs. When Andrew's name was called, the atmosphere in the room immediately changed. Glasses of wine were set down, and conversations came to a halt. All eyes were on the podium. Barron leaned back, not showing any emotion. Yet his gaze remained fixed on the speaker. He seemed ready for an unforgettable moment. Andrew stepped onto the podium, wearing a confident and steady smile. His black suit made him look dignified and powerful. The audience, familiar with his strong speeches, waited for sharp and uncompromising words. The entire hall fell silent, pausing all actions, and focused solely on the words that would come from Andrew. But as he began speaking, what happened next was something no one in the room could have predicted. The spotlight cut through the night like cold beams of light, outlining the solemn space in the grand hall. The guests were gathered around the dinner tables, while the atmosphere slowed down, with everyone knowing that an important event was about to unfold. No one could predict what would happen next until Andrew, the famous journalist, stepped up to the podium. At first, his voice was gentle, like a breeze, seemingly easing the tension in the room. He began with a joke, recounting a time he attended a charity event where a champagne tower was knocked over. Laughter erupted, breaking the formal atmosphere and helping everyone relax. It seemed that everything would continue smoothly. But suddenly, Andrew completely changed his approach. As he shifted from light-hearted stories to more serious topics, his tone began to sharpen, even becoming somewhat biting. Each word he spoke seemed to cut through the crowd's comfort, starting with comments about politicians, even offering subtle criticism of controversial decisions. Many people began to feel uncomfortable, and confused glances started to appear among the crowd. Then, suddenly, Andrew's attention shifted to Barron. "And of course, there's a name that can't be left out of this conversation," he said, his eyes twinkling under the lights. "He, who lives in a world that most of us can't even imagine. where everything is different." The whole hall suddenly hushed. All eyes turned to Barron, who remained seated, his expression unchanged. From his table, he was like a still point amid the movement around him. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy. Silence spread, and the laughter Andrew had hoped for seemed to vanish. Andrew continued, this time with a hint of sarcasm in his voice. "I'm sure your life is quite different, when you can look out the window and see a vibrant world, while others have to struggle with battles of their own in their everyday lives." This statement didn't draw laughter. A few people tried to force a smile, but most remained silent, seemingly unsure of how to react. But Barron, with all his calm, didn't flinch. He showed no emotion, didn't appear confused or tense. He sat there, like a living statue, still. And it was in this moment, as the crowd's gaze continued to focus on him, that Barron did something no one expected. He didn't respond to the criticism, didn't show any emotion, but with a small gesture, he completely changed the atmosphere in the room. The entire space suddenly grew silent, suffocating, as if everything had stopped in a moment that could not be changed. The whole hall seemed to wake up in that tense moment when the lights shone directly on Barron, a young man with an unremarkable appearance but the focus of all attention. He sat there, among the busy crowd, as if he had been prepared for this moment. Andrew's probing words, like sharp arrows, pierced the air. Every eye was fixed on Barron, waiting for his reaction. But he just sat still. No confusion. No hurry. Every movement was perfectly controlled. His hand gently placed on the table as a statement that nothing could disrupt his calm. Everything seemed to slow down. The room went silent. No one dared to speak another word. Those around began exchanging glances, feeling the tension in the air. It seemed that everyone was waiting for a reaction, a comment. But that did not happen. The entire room seemed to freeze, suspended in a space soaked in silence. Silence was not the absence of sound, but the powerful presence of Barron. No one knew what to do, unsure whether he would speak or simply continue sitting there in stillness. But it was precisely this silence that spoke volumes. "I don't need to explain. I've heard enough." Andrew stood there, as the eyes of everyone were fixed on Barron, slightly awkward in the face of the unbreakable silence. The journalist tried to regain his confidence, cleared his throat, and said, "Well, the audience today is quite hard to please, aren't they?" But his words seemed to shatter in the cold space. No one reacted. Not a single laugh echoed. That moment stretched on, as if the whole world had stopped spinning. And then, finally, Barron stood up. The sound of the chair scraping across the floor broke the stillness. All eyes were now focused on him as he walked with steady steps, each step leaving an indelible mark. He was tall and firm, not rushing. People instinctively moved out of his way, as though he were taking command of the space. He walked up to the stage, needing no words. But his presence had caused everyone to pause. Barron's gaze did not flit around, it was decisive, as though every step he took was a firm declaration of power and confidence. As he neared Andrew, the atmosphere grew heavier. The journalist, once confident, now felt an overwhelming sense of unease. Everyone in the hall was looking at Barron, unsure of what he would do next. But they were certain of one thing: Barron was not just someone sitting there, he was a force. A figure they could not easily overlook. As Barron moved toward the podium, the atmosphere in the grand hall suddenly became heavy, as if all time had stopped to wait. Each of his steps echoed like a drumbeat, causing all eyes around to focus on him. He stopped a few steps before the podium, standing tall with calm composure, his eyes burning brightly as if to see through everything. "I'm sure you all have many thoughts," Barron said, his voice firm, unwavering. He was not in a hurry, not the least bit flustered. It felt as though everything he was about to say had been prepared long ago, like a part of a well-thought-out plan. I grew up surrounded by rumors, hasty judgments from others about myself, my family, about who we are, he continued, each word spoken gently but filled with inner strength. For some people, this is just a game, an easy pastime when they don't know the truth behind it. I understand that, because living under the spotlight is part of this job. The entire hall was silent. Not a sound. Only the sound of his own words remaining. Those present, who may have smiled at the jokes earlier, now couldn't help but pause to reflect. But what is more important than anything else is that we cannot judge a person by their appearance, Barron said, his voice stronger, each word a reminder of deep understanding. No matter how many stories are woven around us, you never truly know me. None of you can understand me just from what you read or hear. Andrew's gaze, from the podium, suddenly turned uncomfortable. Barron's words did not come as a direct criticism, but rather as a mirror reflecting Andrew's own attitude and that of others. Barron was questioning the assumptions they had created. What I've learned over time, Barron continued, a slight change in his tone, is that respect is not something you have to fight for. It's something we should give voluntarily, especially when you don't fully understand a story. A deep silence settled, but it was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of understanding. Those around began to glance at each other, thoughts about what had just been shared beginning to take root. I want to say that we live in a world where words can hurt or heal, Barron continued, his gaze no longer on Andrew but directed at the audience. Sometimes, we forget that our words can deeply impact others. We can easily divide each other, but we can also be the glue that brings harmony. The hall remained silent, but each person in it seemed to feel the power in Barron's words. He was not just talking about a situation or an event, but opening a new door to how we perceive each other in this society. Barron turned back, looking at Andrew once more. I hope you'll think about what I just said, he said gently, but with an undeniable resolve. Then, he turned and walked away, his steps firm and confident on the shining floor. The atmosphere in the grand hall remained devoid of sound, every gaze still fixed on him, as though they could not believe the power of the words just spoken. Gradually, people began to clap, but not because what he had said was just empty words. It was a profound reminder of respect and kindness, values that everyone needed to rediscover. The applause started as a soft sound, echoing from the back of the room. Surely not everyone was ready to join in the clapping, but before long, it seemed to spread throughout the grand hall like a powerful wind. At first, it was just scattered clapping, but soon, the agreement and respect for Barron became undeniable. The applause grew louder, spreading across the room, a clear symbol of respect and admiration. Andrew, who had been trying to remain composed in front of the crowd, could not help but realize that this moment was no longer his. Barron, with an uncommon calmness, did not rush to join the atmosphere around him. He simply continued sitting at his table, his expression completely composed. Each nod he gave to the attendees radiated confidence without any boastfulness. He had said everything that needed to be said and did not require any further validation from the crowd. In the hours that followed, videos of that moment quickly spread on social networks. Attendees did not miss the chance to capture those images, and those moments spread rapidly. Status updates, Instagram and TikTok stories recorded Barron as the model of calmness, while Andrew was criticized for his lack of sensitivity in his words. Barron Trump has proven that courtesy and respect are the most important things in this day and age, one person wrote on Twitter, causing followers to reflect. Another post shared by a well-known attendee said, "Whether you like his family or not, today Barron made all of us rethink how we treat celebrities." And so, the next day, the media began reporting. Some praised Barron for his maturity, saying he had risen above the shadow of criticism. However, there were also opposing views, criticizing Andrew for his thoughtless remarks toward a young person like Barron. Andrew, the following morning, issued a statement. As a leader, I realize that every word I speak has an impact. I crossed a line in my words last night, and I want to sincerely apologize to Barron for my remarks. However, the apology was not easily accepted by everyone. Discussion shows, talk shows, and online programs became a battleground for ongoing debates about the incident. Some viewed Barron's speech as a necessary reminder about respect, while others felt that no one, not even a celebrity, should have to endure thoughtless words like those. For Barron, the media spotlight and the buzz on social media had no effect. He returned to his quiet life, indifferent to the surrounding controversies. Those close to him said that Barron didn't let the dirt of the outside world distract him. Instead, focusing on what truly mattered to him, studying and personal hobbies. He wasn't trying to draw attention, but there was no denying that his composure had left a strong impression on those who witnessed it. Although the event at the Grand Hall had long since ended, its echoes continued to resonate within people. As the atmosphere slowly calmed and the light dimmed, conversations continued, spreading across dining tables, learning spaces, and workplaces. They didn't just discuss the dramatic moments of the gala night but also delved into the lessons it brought, lessons about patience, courage, and the power of words. Barron's calm and decisive response created a powerful ripple effect, like a wave that stirred new thoughts. In an era where every reaction is easily swept away by emotions and outrage, he chose to stand firm with a calm heart, unaffected by the whirlwind of provocation. All eyes were on him, not because of who he was, but because he was a living testament to the power of self-restraint. Barron's calmness made people ask themselves, can we stop for a second before reacting? Have we ever chosen to say something positive instead of tearing others down with harsh words? These questions not only emerged in the minds of those who witnessed the event, but also became the main topic in the conversations the following day, as everyone tried to make sense of Barron's actions. For many, the event was like an awakening. It highlighted the issues of how society can sometimes easily degrade human dignity under the guise of humor or entertainment. Andrew's comments were not just meaningless words, but carried with them the power to deeply devastate. Barron, with his powerful silence, showed everyone that words can hurt, but they can also heal. Especially parents seized this moment to teach their children a valuable lesson about respect and empathy. The video of Barron's speech not only became a popular clip on social networks but was also used in learning spaces as an educational tool, where students could analyze how to handle stressful situations without letting anger overwhelm reason. Teachers and community leaders also praised Barron's handling of the situation, seeing it as a model lesson on how to stand firm in the face of adversity without losing one's humanity. Barron's influence reached far beyond what he could have imagined. In the most tense moments, his maturity created unexpected connections between people with differing views. Those who had conflicts, people from completely different backgrounds, suddenly found common ground in the respect they had for how he faced the challenge. People admired not because of his family's fame, but because of him, a young person who proved that respect and empathy can still exist amid every trial. Through his actions, Barron proved one thing: dignity is not something naturally given, but a choice. A choice that is not easy, but always a choice that can be made, even in the most difficult situations. When Barron's story was shared on social networks, it was not just an event to discuss, but a deep conversation about the power of words and actions in building or destroying. Why do we forget that words, even the smallest, can change a life? Barron taught us that we don't need to rush to react. We don't need to choose retaliation immediately. Instead, we can choose to stand firm, to choose respect and dialogue. We can choose not to respond to hostility with hostility, but with patience and respect. no matter the circumstances. Barron's story left an indelible mark on everyone's heart. It was not just the story of a young man facing a challenge, but a lesson on how we can create a world where human values are always prioritized. If this story made you think, don't forget to subscribe to continue exploring inspiring stories about life, empathy, and the power of words in the journey to change the world. Note: this is a fictional story created for entertainment purposes and to convey meaningful messages about life and humanity. All characters, events, and situations in this story are imaginary. The author is not responsible for any relation to real-life events or people.